Alright, so IV fruit farming with Blazamut Ryu Ultra in Tides of Terraria. This time we're using the Terra Prisma, any sort of good endgame weapon, and we got the Mammoth Curry still. Then we got a couple of stuff in a chest in the base, just some Paldium ore, stone and repair kits, the rest you can just ignore. Then I'm using Musarina Cheeseburger. It gives a little bit of a food hunger resistance buff as well as the attack buff, so slightly lower attack buff for the base pals than a curry, but they also end up needing to eat a little bit less. They get hungry a little bit less, which means that they don't have that sort of debuff. Then we got Ashrobe, Anubis. I'm not going to be bothering with swapping pals. Like in the mid fight in the pal box, you could have had an extra Gobfin, but I'm just going to skip that. Then we have the Orserk army, the fastest army for farming Rio, just because they don't get stunned in phase 2, as you're going to see. Then in the base, I also have 2 pal pots, just in case sometimes some of the pals just don't go and eat. They end up starving and just getting killed by some random pal. Then you can just have your party pal just go and rescue it mid-fight if you want to. Accessories, not super important. I'm using the attack pendants and the attack and defense whistle. We're gonna jump into one of these fights just in the middle of it, so it's not the first fight, because the first fight generally plays out a little bit different because skills are off cooldown and stuff like that. So just jumping straight into it in the middle of one of these. I usually do around 30-minute farming sessions. So I start the fight with an Electrify, just to stun him from his first attack. It's not the same thing as when you're soloing him, when you get that 4 times bonus damage, because that Electrify gets overwritten by like the very first wall splash hit that hits him. So you're not going to get that 10 seconds of 4 times damage from the Terra Prisma, unfortunately. But it's still a decent amount of damage. So I'm running the Terra Prisma, 2 plasma cannons, and then just a quad launcher. It's just a sort of lazy way of doing it, but it's all about bursting him down to that first stun phase. Then I kind of just chill for the rest of the fight. I'm shooting a little bit now just to kind of have something to do, but it's not really important. I just like shooting those 2 plasma cannons and the quad launcher, hitting that first stun phase, using Electrify to stop his first attack, and then usually your pals only get hit like once or twice in the first phase, and then maybe a little bit more in the second phase, but it's mainly about stunning him out of that first attack with that Electrify. It could have also added like a random lightning streak to an Orserk or something like that, but you might as well just have that manual control stunning him out of the first attack. And you can see it's quite a quick fight when you're doing that method, so around 1.5 minutes, let's say. I was a little bit faster, but you might be chilling a little bit, doing some other stuff like, let's just say 1.5 minutes for 80 fruits per hour. Then you also have the option of not doing any sort of player damage except for that first hit. In that case, I'm just running the Anubis to sort of have it in the party for a little bit of manual repairing in the middle of the fight. Also a random Phalaris Aqua to just put out some random fires. But it's mostly just kind of the exact same thing as the previous fight, but no Terra Prisma damage. Could have just used the Terra Prisma anyway, but it has a pretty expensive repair bill when you're farming. I think with the green one I got around 3 to 4 fights per Terra Prisma, which is a decent amount of Terra Prismas. Or farming per Terra Prisma rather. So without any sort of player damage, what ends up happening is that you get a little bit of a delay between the stun phases. Ryu ends up using a couple of attacks, so like just stuff like the Magna Crush, sending pals back, Brawn Impact sending pals back. Since I am using this Rock Burst build, you generally want your pals to sort of be grouping up next to Ryu. With the Musarina Cheeseburger, they last around 3 fights, and then they go and eat, so every 3rd fight I like to just sort of do the repairs, put out all the fires, everything like that. So it's not a huge difference between not using player damage and using player damage now. It's 1.5 minutes per fight versus around 2 minutes per fight, so it's 80 fruits against 60 fruits per hour. Not a huge difference if you just want to chill and let your pals do it, but it is a little bit faster if you include that Terra Prisma plasma cannon damage. But it turns out that you don't really need to be super active. The Orserks barely take any damage anyway, but it's the difference between 60 and 80 fruits and using ammo and not using ammo. Could have used something like Selene as well, just 5 Selenes and swapping there instead of player damage as well. Just kind of mounting up and having that Holy Burst combo. But it kind of plays out the same way, just a little bit slower but a little bit less effort. So those are the 2 ways of farming Ivy fruits currently. A little bit better than Faebreak now with all the trust systems and a little bit more bonus levels. But that's it really, so thanks for watching.